Great. Does everybody have a catalog?
Yep. Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
so I'm not gonna belabor the whole Junior Library Guild part of this, but I do want you to know if you're not using our service right now, maybe ask some people in the room if they are, and we'll be in touch. There's some good deals on the table right now for spring, but for starting in the fall, which is kind of fun. And then help me kind of visualize what's happening in your world. I'm so sad that I'm not there in person. Are the beautiful cherry trees blooming?
No, that's past.
All done.
All done. They're
Early spring.
out.
They're trying to.
This is
Can you hear
later.
these folks talking? I'm not sure if the mic picks them up.
I can't really hear them
Okay.
too well.
Yep. Nope. We're
I
past
won't-
cherry season and cherry blossom season,
Yeah.
and we're in apple blossom. Actually, past apple blossom season.
Yeah,
we're
we're past
watching
it
the fruit
all.
grow now.
Sure.
Oh, is it really that time of year already? We had snow here like a couple weeks, or like last weekend. It was freezing cold here.
Oh, don't tell us that. We're long past that.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible here. I had to turn my fireplace back on.
We're looking at summer.
All right. Hey, let's dive into some books, and if everybody would open their catalogs to page, we're going to start on page 4. I know it was just there in the fall, so we're not going to talk about anything that was published in the fall. Everything to talk about now is spring and summer. And I have slides to go with most of this, but I'm going to veer off from time to time. And in fact, I'm going to do it kind of right out of the gates on page 4 with a book called When Spring Comes. This is case in point for us here, which is what I just mentioned. Kevin Hankey's and his lovely wife, Laura Dronzik. I'm going to veer off one more time and tell you that I just love these married couples who collaborate on books together. And Kevin Hankey's and Laura Dronzik are no different than the Steads. Oh my gosh, I've lost their names. Philip and Aaron, who do beautiful work together as well. And Robin Page, and you may know a name by the name of Steve Jenkins, who also collaborate often on picture books. So When Spring Comes is the story of exactly that. When spring comes, and then it sometimes goes into hiding like it did in Ohio last weekend, and then we get a little taste of winter once again. And I think it's kind of funny that this book kind of ties into Kevin Hankey's last book, which was called Waiting. I think I talked to you all about waiting and the toys that were waiting for different things on a shelf. This book ties really nicely into that because it seems like we're in winter and we're waiting and maybe not so patiently sometimes for spring to arrive. And then spring comes and it goes, and then we're waiting for
Summer.
summer. I can't hear you all at all now, so I'm hoping
We had
that,
one correct answer.
Okay, so When Spring Comes is the story of waiting for spring, and again, the kind of coming and going, and it changes its mind a lot. Yeah, the next book that I'm gonna, oh, hey, look at that. I'm gonna talk about this book called Little One, by Joe Weaver. This is a beautifully illustrated book. The art in this book is amazing. It is the story of a mother bear and her cub who are just waking up in the springtime from hibernation, and she takes him out into the wild world, and she shows him all the things that he needs to learn as summer progresses, or spring progresses into summer, and summer progresses into fall, and preparing themselves for hibernation again in the winter. Again, illustrations are out of this world. I love this book. Next is, and actually let's stop and look at this page just real quickly. I want to talk about Good Night Owl by Greg Pizzoli. I had an opportunity just a few weeks ago while we were in Texas at the Texas Library Association conference, which by the way is humongous. because they don't do anything small in the state of Texas. Their conference rivals the American Library Association conferences in the size and the nature of those conferences. So we get to do some kind of fun things because it's so large and it goes for so many days. Junior Library Guild did a 2-day event where myself, interviewed 30 authors, and Greg was someone that I got to interview. And we talked a little bit about this book, and it is so much fun. An owl hops in bed at night, and he covers himself up, and he's ready to drift off to sleep, and you can see he's reading a book. And he's doing what I'm doing, pretty much falling asleep, and then he wakes up because he hears this noise. Gets out of bed and he goes in search of a noise and he thinks it's coming from a cabinet. So he takes everything out of the cabinet, but he can't find the noise, but he thinks he solved the problem. So he gets back in bed and then he hears the noise again. And it reminds me so much of those Looney Tune comics from back in the day when you had that slapstick kind of thing going on. He hops out of bed and ends up dismantling his entire house. And it turns out, and you might be able to see it on that front cover, the culprit is that little mousie that's hanging over the top of the bed. So this book on your screen called Spot the Cat by Henry Cole is one of two
Hey,
books.
Leslie, can I stop you for a sec? Your PowerPoint's not going. It's still on the first slide.
Oh, I wonder why I have moved on. Are you not seeing anything?
It just shows your first slide. Hang on. Yeah, let's stop your screen share and share it again.
Okay. Love technology when it works, right?
Always. Okay, yeah, so we're not seeing anything right now.
Well, I stopped the screen sharing.
Okay, let's hit it again.
Do you need to do something on your end to give it back to me?
I might be able to. There's a presenter. Yeah,
That's kind of weird.
now I can see it. So yeah, but throw your PowerPoint up there again.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that looks better.
Yay! Are we ready to keep going?
Well, yeah, so we can see Spot the Cat. Does it move from one slide to the next now?
What is it?
Yeah, now
Yeah.
it's working. Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you're there to man that, Pete. All right, so this book called Spot the Cat is one of those double entendres. It's spot the cat, meaning you've got to look for the cat on the pages, and you'll see a cat standing at the top, looking through a, what do you call those things? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Telescope, thank you, Pete. And it's also the name of the cat. So it is so much fun because this is a book about a boy who leaves the room where he leaves his cat safely perched on the back of a sofa, and the window's cracked a little bit, and when he comes back in the room he notices that his cat has left the room and he can't find it. So he prints off a whole bunch of lost flyers, and he goes and hunt of his cat in this very urban environment. And only because I got to interview Henry Cole do I know this, that the urban environment that he has painted into these pictures is Washington, D.C. We don't see really Washington, D.C., the memorials and that kind of thing. It's not like it's really in your face, Washington, D.C. It's, parks and museums and things like that he's showing us, but this cat is on what I love to call a walkabout. He's just out kind of wandering around, checking out the city, and in many cases, on many of the pages, the boy is just a mere few steps behind him. And the boy ends up going home rather dejectedly because he has failed to find his cat. And when he walks on the door, you know who's there waiting for him, right? The cat. spot. Okay, this book called Among a Thousand Fireflies by Helen Frost with photographs by Rick Leiter. I hope to God you all have fireflies. You do, don't you?
No, we don't.
Oh, I'm brokenhearted. I was in Idaho a few weeks back and they didn't have fireflies either, and I was so sad. So you don't get this joy. This is one of the things that we wait for in the summer time, and it's always a lot of fun when you get to see that those little blinks of light that are in your backyard. This is the story of how fireflies mate, and you are not incorrect in noticing that this is a nonfiction early elementary. Super easy reader, but it is the story of how a female firefly may light on a flower or a blade of grass, and she has a pattern to her flickers that she uses to attract her mate, and her mate must have the same pattern of flashes in order for her to mate with him. I know that topic might be a little too much for some kids. There is a tremendous amount of back information in this book that gives a little bit more detail. I'm going to try to show you a book trailer, but I'm not sure that it's going to work, but we're going to give it a whirl anyway. And pray for good things to come. Maybe not.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I'm going to try it one more time. Yeah, not going to work. Sorry about that. I just teased you. I'm using a borrowed computer, and unfortunately mine's a Mac, and it doesn't always move things over to, I've got an IBM in front of me. Okay, so this book called There Is a Tribe of Kids is on pages, or on the page 8 in your catalogs. This is the story of a boy who is very much like Spot the cat, who's going on a walkabout. He leaves his community and he goes on a very long, very detailed walk. And what I loved about what Lane Smith did is he gave groups of things a full-page spread in this book. So as this boy is walking, he encounters a colony of penguins. And so again, full layout of the penguins as the boy is interacting with them, and then he walks with a parade of elephants. And then maybe this picture will help you get a good idea of what I'm talking about. But oh my goodness, my picture's gone, sorry about that. This is not working the way I wanted it to. But anyway, I think you're getting the gist of the story. He sleeps in a bed of clams until he finds his way back to his tribe of kids, the Friends. This book called The Night Gardener by the Fan Brothers. I was completely unfamiliar with the Fan Brothers before this book came out. I'm not actually 100% sure whether they have published before or not, but I'm suspecting that they haven't because I can't find any information out about them at all. This book is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. You can tell from the front cover that this is one of those books that's just going to be special. I'm quite certain of it. It's going to go some places this year. A boy named William wakes up and he lives on Grimlock Lane in an orphanage. And he looks out of his window and there's a huge commotion going on in his yard where a tree has been cut into an owl. And he can't figure out what the heck's going on because who could have done this? Where did this come from? It just materialized overnight. So everybody is oohing and ahhing about this beautiful topiary in the tree on Grimlock Lane. And every single night, something else happens, and the next morning, there's a new topiary all along the tree-lined street of Grimlock Lane. Towards the end of this book, where we're starting to kind of try to figure out what's happening and who's doing this, there's the most magnificent topiary that's been cut into several trees that are lined up together, and it's in the shape of a dragon. and people stay and up very late at night celebrating this beautiful topiary. And the boy kind of hangs back for a while, and it's getting darker and darker, and it's finally time for him to go home too. And he looks down the street and he sees this little old man carrying a ladder and a bag full of tools, and he wonders if it could be the night gardener. There's another picture of a cat that has been cut into a couple of the trees. Do you love this art?
Yeah.
We do.
I heard a yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
yeah. Lots of yeses.
It's beautiful. Yes, good. The following morning, William was not disappointed, so this was one that came a little bit later in the book. I think the art is spectacular. So this cute little book called Fish is a wordless book, and it's about the story of a boy who takes his dog, and they pop into a fishing boat, and it looks like they're going fishing for fish, but instead of that, what they're doing is they're fishing for letters. And so the boy casts his line out, and he pulls in an F, and then he pulls in an I, and he throws them in his boat, and then he gets his S, and then he's searching for the letter H. And the H, as you can see, is very large. And that H does not want to be caught, so it gives him a hard time, and it almost capsizes his boat. But then he finally wrangles it in, and he rows back into shore, and he's got his dog and his bag of letters, and he's heading back into town, where we find out where those letters are going. And they're going on a sign above a race, and no one can finish the race until the finish sign is finished with the F-I-S-H. Hey, while we're on this page, few books here that are kind of cute. Dan Satat has released a new book called Are We There Yet? And if you were friends with Dan on Facebook, by the way, he has done an amazing job of doing a little publicity stunt for this book, where he sent himself back in time. And that's exactly what this book is. You know how, vacation time is coming, and this book is about a boy who's going on vacation, a car vacation with his parents. And you know how that time just drags when you're in the back seat and everything looks the same, and oh my gosh, I'm bored, and what am I going to do? And this boy ends up having quite an adventure where he is going back in time and going forward in time, and it's craziness and lots of fun. And not to be left out is Matt Barnett with illustrations done by Matt Myers. The book just below Are We There Yet? On page 9 is called Rules of the House. And I love this story because there's two kids and they're going on vacation to a house rental, and there's a whole list of rules for the house that are supposed to be followed. The older child is a girl, and she is a rule breaker. She's a girl after my own heart, and her little brother is a rule follower. And so she tests the patience of her little brother, just trying to get his goat, I think, a little bit. And she breaks every rule, including the biggest rule of them all, and that was to not open a red door. And she does it anyway. And then things get a little bit more difficult for the two of them. It's a lot of fun. Okay, A Piece of Home is a book that is late this summer, on page 10. It's in the easy reading section. This is the story of a boy who is immigrating from Korea to West Virginia, and he remembers how ordinary he was in Korea, how everything was, he was just part of a group of people that looked the same and talked the same and dressed the same, and his grandmother was extraordinary. She was a woman who taught school and was so well respected by all the children that she taught, and they loved her dearly. And she has chosen to come with her family to West Virginia, where her son has taken a job at a university. And then the light has just kind of left her eyes. She's not speaking the language, and she's in a new country, in a new house, and not teaching school. And her son is now in his new position, and her grandson realizes that he is not ordinary at all. He knows that his teacher smiles at him and knows that he doesn't understand, and he smiles at her and knows that she doesn't understand either. So it's the difficulties and the uncomfortableness of being in a strange place. But then, of course, as usual, time heals kind of some of those pains, and as we progress into this book, this boy has made friends with another child at school, and while he's there, he sees something that he knows his grandmother will love. So he gets a hold of a plant, and he brings it home to his grandmother. And he tells her that the name of this plant is called a Rose of Sharon, and his grandmother informs him that the Korean name for that, and of course I can't say that plant name, but it is a Rose of Sharon here in the United States, where in Korea they grow as well. And so she says it's a piece of home, and they're starting to feel more comfortable in the United States. So, Stories from the Bug Garden is a story to be read aloud. It's a story that I think kids will find very humorous. There's a bumblebee and a dragonfly, a damsel dragonfly, and if you look off to the right, just underneath the author and illustrator's names, you'll see a little bug sitting on top of a flower who's a horsefly, and she actually believes that she's a horse. And so there's all kinds of craziness that happens in these interconnected stories between all these bugs that live in the flower garden. Okay, so here's another book by Henry Cole. Can you tell that this man was very prolific last year, or maybe over a couple of years? I loved this book. It just was so touching and sweet in so many ways. And I saw some pieces of this character that I could have said, yeah, that was kind of my life, but I could also see it from my son's point of view too. Not great students and didn't really aspire to anything great. And Twig, this chipmunk, is having these places where in his life where he really wants to succeed, but everything just keeps getting in his way, and he doesn't know what to do. And one day when he makes a really strong effort to do everything the right way, a boy makes him trip and fall and have an unexpected accident. So he's bullied a little bit. And he decides after that, when everybody's laughing at him and his teachers are mad, that he's going to run away. Now, if you look at the front cover of this book, you'll see that glowing sphere that is off to Twig's left. And that sphere plays a huge role in this book because inside is a dragon. And he and that dragon have a very special relationship. They collaborate on some things, and it shoots Twig into stardom in his community. And then people find out how he's been able to do some things with the help of his dragon friend, and then he is made fun of again, and people aren't looking very kindly on him once again. But then again, the story kind of twists one last time, and it ends on a very high note. But oh my gosh, what a great little story by Henry Cole. And talk about a great little story. Katrina Manstead is a Danish author. So this book was written and then translated for us here in the United States. And I'm so glad that they picked this book for the U.S. It is gorgeous, and I'm suspecting it is a strong contender for the Batchelder this year. So this book is set in Denmark in 1911, however, not on the mainland. It is the story of a girl who has left Denmark and is on a boat ride on her way out to a very remote island off the coast of Denmark to live with a grandmother that she's never met before. And one of the most hysterical pieces of this book happens in the very first chapter, where she's on the boat and she's sitting next to a goat that's tied up where she is, and she lays her head down, and when she wakes up, when they finally pull into port, the goat has chewed half of her head of hair off. So she's had these two beautiful long braids, and now half of her head of hair is gone, and that goat has had a meal of human hair. It's kind of disgusting, but you can just see this poor little girl's agony when she's trying to make a good impression on her grandmother, and she tries to pull that beanie down on top of her head a little bit, and her grandmother is just not buying it. So they don't start off well, and the girl has had a tragedy in her life. We learn later that her father died very young, and her mother has just passed, and they had a very loving family relationship. And then when she gets to this grandmother, her grandmother is very stern, and one of the very first encounters with her grandmother is her grandmother punishing her and slapping her in the face. And I know that sounds horrible, and it's certainly not acceptable in these days now, but one of the things that just hit me was that the moment where that girl is touching her cheek and it's stinging and it's painful, and she looking at her grandmother and thinking, this woman does not love me in any way, and how am I going to live with this person who does not care for me, and how circumstances, she is surrounded by animals. They don't really abide her presence too well, but she kind of wins them over with her ways, and slowly they start to accept her being there. And one of the cutest little parts of this is when a gosling hatches and imprints on Roz, and that's his mama. And so the two of them, you know, she's kind of taken this gosling in and learns the things that she needs to learn to get him through his early life. And then it turns out that the people who built Roz have come back to get her. And that's kind of where the book ends, where she's rescued, so to speak. But she wants more than anything to go back to the island. And I think that's probably what book 2's going to pick up. I loved it. Rainy Nightingale by Kate DiCamillo. I am hearing from some people who have had an opportunity to read this already that they love this book. And I'm going to tell you that the advanced reader copy that I read, had a foreword in it by Kate DiCamillo. And what I thought was interesting was that she's written a lot of herself into this book, where she's not necessarily done that in past books. This story is about a girl whose father has left the home because he's having an affair with a dental hygienist. And folks, if you're in a very conservative area, you may want to make sure that that is okay with your little patrons, because it is right there in living color for everyone to read, that it is an affair with a dental hygienist. And so father has left. Daughter is feeling the sting of being rejected by her father, and so she thinks that if she enters the Little Miss Central Florida Tire pageant, that she will be able to win him back. If she wins it, then her name and her picture will be printed in the paper, and he'll see it, and he'll want to come home and be with her. So she starts taking baton twirling lessons with two other girls. Those two other girls also have some family issues. One of them a little bit more severe than the others, but the three girls, this is kind of that coming of age and how friends are helping each other overcome some of the problems that they each have at home. I think most kids will really enjoy reading this book again. I always get a little worried when you've got a broken family kind of thing happening right there in the middle of the book. If someone is too fresh into something like that, they may not be able to take it too much. But let's move on to True and Nell by Greg Mary. It's on page 15. It's the June selection. This is a really sweet story about Truman Capote when he was 7 and Harper Lee when she was 6, and how the two of them became really good friends. They both enjoyed writing, and they lived in a very small town in Alabama, and they decided that they wanted to become detective journalists, and they started to investigate a small town mystery. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting about this, that Greg was able to talk with, but at least was able to meet Harper Lee, and he shared the fact that he was writing this book. Now, I don't know if y'all knew this or not, but she did have some memory issues in the later parts of her life, that this book came out a week before she passed away. Isn't that crazy? Okay, Elders Remy, and we're on Cloth Lullaby now, on page 16. This is the story of Louise Bourgeois, and how at age 12 she and her mother worked very hard, and she was learning the art of family of restoring tapestries and carpets. And when her mother passed away, Louise was at university and was a very brilliant mathematician, but because her mother passed, she decided that done with the university, and she did not want to study any longer, even though she had this amazing mind for math, abandoned it and went into multiple forms of art. If you get a chance, I would definitely go out on YouTube and check out all of there are videos of Louise Bourgeois and some of the art installations that she did. They are amazing, and she did some really interesting and unique things, and a whole bunch of different mediums. So painting, weaving, sculpting. There's a couple pieces where she had built some wire and cement structures that are in installations in parks that are just incredible. Mercy, the incredible story of Henry Burge, he's the founder of the ASPCA and Friend to Animals. This story by Nancy Furstinger it's incredible to me that somebody who is born with that silver spoon and has absolutely no calling, no idea what they want to do, they just kind of float through life for, in this case, 50 years before they finally get hit with something and they go, wow, I think I need to get involved in this. This man, born into all the money that he could possibly ever need and more, traveled and got married and traveled some more, never held a job, really didn't care to get involved in anything, but witnessed a terrible tragedy in the city streets of a farm animal that was being hurt by its owner. And that was when he finally went, wow, I got to do something about this. And so dogfighting was one of the things that was occurring frequently in his town, and so he would bust through doors and windows and come down out of ceilings and jump in the ring and separate the fighting dogs, and sometimes at great harm to himself. This is a crazy story, but it is this amazing story of this man who finally decided to get involved and created something that is still around today. Also in this book, or on the same page, we've got this book called Anything But Ordinary Addie, the true story of Adelaide Herman, Queen of Magic. Something I think is kind of interesting about this that I didn't know is that if you look at magic books, biographies of magicians, there is never in any of them a book about a woman magician. And so Mara Rockloff ran across this kind of hidden article about Adelaide Herman and decided to investigate a little bit deeper and found out the story about Addie and her husband Alexander Herman, who had a very successful magic show. And for many years, they performed and toured, but when he passed away suddenly, she knew the one thing that needed to happen, because there were all kinds of stagehands and people that were involved in this magic show. That show needed to continue, and so she memorized all of his tricks, figured out stuff that she needed to do to make the show continue, and then also realized that as a woman, she was not going to get the crowds unless she did something super spectacular. So the one trick that she felt like she could not do was stand before a firing squad, and I'm going to tell you that she took on that trick, and she would stand and wow audiences. She would stand on the stage holding a porcelain plate before three men who fired guns at her, and through the smoke, when the smoke cleared, she would be standing still on stage with the porcelain plate with three smoking bullets on that plate. It was a trick that no one could figure out. It was that wow factor that she needed to keep that magic show running successfully, and did for a long, long time. Supported her and her kids through all the time. And I'm going to tell you that what I think is so interesting about this is that Mara Rockcloth, if you go to her website, reveals the mystery of how she did that trick. So kids will find that interesting. Also on this page is Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's Super Soakin' Stream of Inventions by Chris Barton and my good friend Don Tate. This is an interesting story about a man who started at a very early age wanting to be an inventor, and he was born into a very large family, and he hardly had any space to himself. Of course, money was always an issue, but he continued to invent all the way through his elementary, middle, and high school education and beyond, and became an amazing inventor and was involved in NASA. But the one thing that I think is so interesting that has touched so many lives, not that NASA didn't touch all of our lives, but that he was the inventor of the Super Soaker, that water gun, and made millions from it. And actually, the company that bought the rights Super Soaker withheld his royalties for a long, long time, and they finally got them just a short time ago, like a few months ago. But man, this is an interesting story about Lonnie Johnson, who, by the way, is not all that old now, and is still inventing. Real poop on pigeons? And you're probably laughing now, although I can't hear you. This is the story of a man who's sitting on a park bench, and he's kind of not very happy about the fact that there's all these pigeons and they're pooping everywhere, and a bunch of school kids inform him of all the wonderful things that pigeons are responsible for. Very interesting facts about pigeons and some of the things that they've had to do with our history. And I think one of those things you'll probably know about, the carrier pigeons, how important those were, carrying messages. Let's see, the truth about my unbelievable summer. That's in our humor category and on page 20. I think I may have shared with you all the story, the reason I didn't bring my homework, which was the story of a boy who tells his teacher all the reasons why he does not have his homework with him. And when we get to the end of the book, he's looking at her and says, "You're not believing a word I say." And she's looking at him with the book in her hand. She says, "That's because I'm reading the same book." Oh, it was quite funny. The whole book was totally crazy and far-fetched. And that's the same with the truth about my unbelievable summer. So a boy goes on vacation and he dreams up all of these crazy things that are happening to him on his summer vacation. I am not going to tell you how this one ends, but it's equally fun. Margaret Peterson Haddock's Under Their Skin. Now, many of you will be very happy that you're seeing another Margaret Peterson Haddock's book. However, how many of you are happy when she writes 8 sequels? I'm never happy when I see 8 sequels. And Margaret Peterson Haddock's, by the way, lives right here in Columbus, Ohio, just a few blocks away from me, where I live. So we end up on the same planes frequently, and it's kind of funny. Are you going to that conference? Yeah. This book is only going to be a duology. So the book starts with boy Nick and his sister Erin, who are from a broken family, and their mom informs them that they're getting a new stepfather. And they go, well, okay, you know, he's a good guy, we like him. His name's Nick, and well, it's not like he has any kids. And she goes, well, that's not actually true. He does have 2 kids, but I can promise you, you'll never have to meet them. So the kids watch their mom get married to this man, and then they move. They have to move out of state, and as they are trying to figure out what's happening, and the fact that this man has kids, but they've never seen them. Why haven't they seen them?
Yet in other browsers, but we're just going to talk about Chrome. And so I want to talk about a couple different areas. Right up here, I've got a whole bunch of tabs open, right?
Yeah.
A ton of tabs. And I don't ever close them because sometimes I'll get to an article or a video or something I want to watch or read. I don't have time for it, so I just open a new tab and leave it open and come back to it. And so those are all the tabs, right? And so right below that is the address bar, right? So this is where we type in any browser. And you can type a search in here, right? You can just type keywords in and hit enter in that. Okay, so next to in Chrome, if you take your mouse, you can put it right here next to the address bar, and it turns to a double-sided arrow, and I can drag it over. So I'm going to shorten where you would type stuff in. And all of these little icons right here are called extensions, and they're free. And they're little tools that allow you to get places quicker. So I'm just going to point out maybe 2 or 3 that I use that I think are great in the classroom. Do you ever send emails or make PDFs or make Word documents or PowerPoints where you have links in it, right? And you're giving them to your kids or you're giving them to teachers and you're saying, click here, go to this link, read this, and then click somewhere else, right? So just a couple URL shorteners. One is called bit.ly and the other one is called Google Tiny URL, which is in my popping up. Is that what you meant? It sounds kind of like an old modem.
Yeah.
Anybody got it yet? So when you play that in your classroom and everyone else has this extension installed, your computer played it, mine hears it, and opens up that web page automatically. So have you ever been in class and you're like, all right, everybody open your devices and go here, www. And you put on the screen, and kids are like, whoa, put it up again, I missed it. You moved off the slide too fast.
Oh, that's
or I typed it wrong.
Or there's
you just
somewhere
play
else.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to install that on the other device?
Yeah, you have your kids go get this extension, yep, and when you play that loud enough, their device will hear it and it'll open up the page that you're on when you hit that extension.
If they have that installed, they have to have it
Yeah, they have to have this installed, yep, it's called
So you
Google
just
Tone.
go and put it on all your Google Chromebooks, put it on all of them, and then come in
Yeah.
your Chromebooks and you'd have it.
Yeah. I would just teach my kids how to get extensions.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to do it, but once they figure out extensions are pretty cool, right? They're going to get the Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and Amazon and yeah. Great, let them load it up. It's not hurting anything, but Tone app, or extension, sorry. I don't know why it's not coming out the Apple TV, but right. You guys get the idea. That saves a ton of time. Okay. Here's another one that's pretty cool. It's called Lights Out. I won't go show you where they're at. It is Lights Out. Turn off the light. It's way over here on the right. It's called Turn Off the Lights. When you're showing a YouTube video and you click Turn Off the Lights, it blacks out everything around it so you don't see the ads. And it just shows it doesn't really black it out. It's really dark gray though.
I love that.
Focus on the video. So now you're watching this video. I have no idea what this
I talk with my mouth,
video
but I sell with my hands.
all right. So that little extension called Turn Off the Lights, I click it again, it just toggles.
So you could show something about the ad.
Just kind of, yeah, that's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
All right,
That one.
Yeah.
one more. Here it is. This is one of my new favorites. So I have all these tabs. If this browser closes or my machine crashes or something, I lose all this work, right? I don't want to make these all favorites. I just want to come back and read them. So this extension is called Tab Cloud, right here, Tab Cloud. And when you click it, this little window is every one of my tabs, and I can save it. So now I've saved it. And here it is, May 20th at 2:30, and her name is Casey, and she runs this website called Shake Up Learning. If you're a Google, Chrome, book, Chrome browser type of person or school, you need to follow Shake Up Learning because she's a Google expert. That's all she does. I don't know how she gets paid. Post Google stuff. So this is just looking for other extensions, and here's Casey's fantastic Google Chrome apps and extensions for teachers and students list.
So
right?
what's the difference between an app and an extension?
Yeah, good question. An app really in Google is is kind of like its application. It's not an extension that goes up here. It's more like a web page.
Okay.
So everybody that runs Chrome, you know you got this little Rubik's Cube thing right here in the top left, apps. You have that built-in button. When you click it, it shows you all the apps you have installed. Well, these are really just web pages.
Oh, okay.
So if you think about it that way. So this, Gmail isn't really an app.
Okay.
It is. You can install Gmail on your PC. But when you run Gmail on a Chromebook, it's just another web page. Because in Chromebooks, you don't really put anything on them. Yeah. So if you go back to the Google Store, and we just look specifically at apps, you'll be able to see the difference of what they are. But really, it's installing it as a link. Yep. So Casey's deal is Shake Up Learning. You can go there.
What was her last name?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Bell.
Casey Bell, yep.
So there's two, there's one with a little head and one with a circle around it.
For what?
For Shake Up.
Shake Up Learning, yeah, it's her little head. She looks. So that's Buffer. Instagram is the